This day in sports history. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Father's Day is coming up soon, and there's no better gift for Dad than soap from the Sterling Soap Company. Now understand, you're not telling Pops that he stinks. Instead, you're letting him know he deserves the best. Sterling soap is made from 100% natural ingredients, and with a wide variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, and cologne, there is a product and a scent for all the dads out there. Check them out for yourself at sterlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com. It's May 16th, and folks were doing a lot of brawling and balling on this day throughout sports history. I've got 3 stories of ball players getting into scraps, tussles, disputes, and Donnybrooks. Let's start with what happened in the early morning hours on this day in 1957. The New York Yankees were scheduled to have the night off on the 16th, and so it seemed like a pretty good idea to Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford that, they should go out and celebrate teammate Billy Martin's 29th birthday. They added Yogi Berra, Hank Bauer, Gil McDougald, Johnny Kucks, and their wives to the invite list. They started the evening on the 15th, having dinner at Danny's Hideaway, before one of the crew suggested that they go check out the Copacabana. They'd heard Sammy Davis Jr. was supposed to be performing that night. Now, the Copa was a high-class joint, frequented by the city's politicians, mob guys, Wall Street types, celebrities, and athletes. The place was actually run by Frank Costello, considered to be the most powerful organized crime figure in the country at the moment. As the 15th rolled over into the 16th, and the Yankee players and their wives settled in to hear Sammy Davis Jr., they began to hear heckling from a few guys in the front. Members of a local bowling club had sauntered in earlier, and they were now proceeding to sling racial slurs and epithets at Sammy. The Yankees, to a man, all objected to the words being directed at the singer. Hank Bauer, who roomed with Elston Howard, a black ball player, told the guys to keep their racist thoughts to themselves. That soon escalated into words being exchanged, then in a scuffle near the men's restroom, and at some point, a punch or punches were thrown. Once the dust settled, deli owner Edwin Jones was on the floor. Jones was taken to a nearby hospital with a broken jaw, broken nose, and bruises on his arms. The police were called, and most of the Yankees skedaddled in time, but Bauer stuck around and he was arrested. Jones pressed charges, and the enlarged headline in the morning paper read, "Bauer in Brawl at the Copa." Now, the thing is, there was a lot of mystery surrounding this event, as Yogi was famously quoted as saying, "Nobody done nothing to nobody." The case against Bauer never went to court, with the DA dropping the charges. Yankee GM George Weiss took a harsher stance on the events that night, fining Martin, Mantle, Berra, Bauer, and Ford $1,000. But this also gave Weiss the impetus he needed to get rid of Billy Martin, who he considered a bad influence on the team. Now, none of the guys in the locker room would have said that about Billy Martin, but now Weiss had all the ammunition he needed to lay this at Billy's feet. He was packaged in a deal that sent him to Kansas City soon after. Now, the mystery about who actually punched Jones was not uncovered for another 63 years, when longtime Copa doorman Joey Silvestri told the New York Times that he was the guy who decked the heckler with 2 punches. As Yogi had rightly pointed out, none of the Yankees were involved. So that leads us to what happened on this day in 1985, when Larry Bird got into a scuffle outside of Chelsea's bar in Quincy Market. The Celtics were locked in a battle with the Philadelphia 76ers in the Eastern Conference Finals. On the 14th, Boston had beaten Philly to take a 2-0 lead in the series. They were not scheduled to play each other again until the 18th, and so on this night, Bird went out on the town with teammate Quinn Buckner and a friend of theirs named Nick Harris to unwind a little bit. Bird was a regular at Chelsea's. Mike Harlow, a guy who bartended at another place in the Quincy Market area, started talking to Bird there at Chelsea's, and that escalated into an argument. Harris and Harlow then got into a shouting match, and the scene moved outside the bar. A witness later described Larry throwing an overhand right to Harlow's face. Bird was pulled back into Chelsea's, and police soon arrived, but made no arrests. Harlow was treated at a local hospital and released. Now, if this had happened in the here and now, there would have been 100 video posts within minutes of this incident. Instead, for the most part, people shut up. They didn't talk about this at all. The folks at Chelsea's said, what are you talking about? There's no situation here. When Bird showed up for Game 3, his right index finger, though, was notably swollen. It didn't affect his shooting, hitting nearly 60% of his shots in Game 3, including 2 of 3 from behind the arc. Harlow was not about to let the incident go, though, pressing charges against Bird. The two eventually settled out of court. The Celtics went on to beat the Sixers in 5 before losing to the Lakers in the finals. How about another fight that happened on this day in 1976? Only this one actually occurred during a game. This was Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals between the defending champion Golden State Warriors and the Phoenix Suns. The Warriors' Rick Barry had been having a pretty nice series, averaging 29 points a game in the first 6, which included a 44-point night in Game 2. But the thing is, Rick Barry had a way of rubbing people the wrong way. He was not a popular guy in the league. Even his teammates didn't like him. And there's no better example of that than what happened on this night in Oakland.
Just moments ago, a fight erupted between Rick Barry of the Warriors and Ricky Sobers of the Phoenix Suns. And neither player is out of the game. This is what happened. There's been a lot of contact, as you might expect, in this 7th and deciding game. Barry and Sobers will both stay in the game, but technical fouls have been assessed against both teams, so really, with no shooting.
So how about that? Punches thrown, an altercation between players, and no ejections. But the important thing to remember about this fight is this.
The thing that I remember about it, when it started, none of his teammates came over to help him out. And so I think he got upset that his teammate didn't come to help him. But Ricky, I thought, got him out of Game 7. He really frustrated him a lot in Game 7.
Yep. Rick Barry was so disliked by his teammates that none of them came over to help him out. The Warriors had a 6-point advantage at the half, and then things got weird at halftime. Barry watched a replay of the fight and saw that none of his teammates came to his aid, and he got pissed. So much so that he refused to shoot for the entire third quarter and the majority of the fourth. In fact, by the time he decided to give up the grudge and start shooting again, the Warriors were in too deep of a hole to dig themselves out of. Barry finished the night with 20 points, but the Suns won the game 94-86 and the series, advancing to the finals to play the Boston Celtics. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. The color green has been deadly throughout history. Well, at least it was in the 18th century. A popular shade of green created in the 1770s called Scheele's green was made with arsenic. It was used to pigment paint, used in wallpaper, and it was even used to dye children's clothes. Well, Napoleon was a big fan of Scheele's green, and there is a thought that the pigment in his wallpaper was the cause of his death. The artists Monet and Cézanne used a pigment called Paris green that was also highly toxic. There are those who believe that the use of the color may have led to Monet's eventual blindness and the diabetes Cézanne developed. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.